Hi everyone, I'm Heather Wen, a retired nurse practitioner and the founder and practitioner at Arizona Healing Alternatives. On this channel you'll find several videos, what I like to call aha moments, where we'll be discussing issues that impact your health. So whether you decide to use Western medicine, alternative medicine, or even a mix of both, I'm passionate about you knowing what your options are. When you think of the word teasing, what comes to mind? For most people, it's probably pretty positive, kind of innocent little teasing of your friends or things like that. But can it be something different? Is it just normal human behavior? Is it seen in animals? What does it mean? And how does it impact you? We're going to be discussing that in just a minute, so stay tuned. So just the other day, I was kind of introduced as we kind of interact with people, whether it's on a friendship level or other level, many times teasing is involved. And so with that, sometimes because for those of you that know me, you know that I'm an HSP, which is a highly sensitive person. And there's a video that I'll link to that with this. So when it comes to that, teasing, sometimes I get pretty sensitive about it. So is that normal? Is that okay? Well, what teasing is okay and isn't okay, and where does teasing even come from? Well, when we look at it, it's kind of interesting. It's interesting because they've done some studies on it. Not a whole lot, but there have been some really interesting studies on teasing, and that teasing can range from either very positive or it can range into very negative sorts of behaviors. Things that can be as bad as bullying. So how do we tell the difference between things like this? Well, the thing that I found so fascinating, and I will post in the little description section an article that I think sums it up. It sums it up for partner relationships, but I think that can go from friendships and anything else as well, as it has some really good guidelines on it. But let's go into the research and the studies on it. So the first thing, the studies on it is they've seen even in animals and even in human babies, there is teasing behavior. For example, let's say in a little infant, they'll take a little toy and the parent will come up and they'll pull it away and then it'll start giggling. So there's teasing and stuff to try to learn what are the boundaries and what is it about. Culturally, I think it's really fascinating. They've shown that in certain cultures in the past, and even present day, it's used almost as a protection for the other person to help them. So for example, let's say you're in a culture where there's a lot of hunting and there's a lot of, let's say, tribal kind of stuff or whatever. If there was a person that's ego was becoming too inflated to the point where if they were so certain they were just amazing at, hunting and all of this stuff, then that could actually put them in danger of being killed, of having other problems. Because if they're so certain they're great, then he might not be looking for danger. So sometimes the person in that culture would tease and just say, oh, well, he just thinks he's really good at this, to kind of bring that person back down to reality and realizing that, hey, you need to be careful, you need to still be humble, you need to be watching for things. And so in many cases, teasing can be used from anywhere to babies doing things, animals do this too. It can be used very innocently or as a protection for someone, or it can be used to kind of bring somebody back into what's called societal norms of human behavior. And that, it depends on how it's used, doesn't it? But so the positive, those are kind of the positive things about teasing. And sometimes it can be, like little kids tease each other on the playground, it's because they like each other. Okay, so it can be things like this. So that's kind of the positive aspect of teasing. But what about the negative aspects? Because teasing can be used, if you're trying to use it to kind of help with someone's ego, it could be that you're feeling insecure about yourself. And so then you want to bring that other person down a peg so that you can feel superior to them. And so that can be how teasing is used. And that's a very negative thing, as well as teasing can be used to try to put someone in their place in a bad way, in a negative way. And teasing can be used also to really hurt another person if you don't feel comfortable enough saying what's on your mind in a very different constructive way. So it can be destructive, and that's what bullies do. Bullies tease, and it's about what they're teasing about too. So how do we tell the difference between if it's positive, if it's negative? How do we even tell? Well, I think one of the most important things, and I've talked about this in other videos on communication, is perception checking. Is checking, let's say you don't know the person that well. If they're teasing you and it hits you wrong, you can always set really firm boundaries and just perception check first before the boundary setting. And perception checking is just to say to that person, so it seems like that sounds like you're trying to put me down. Is that what's going on, or what's going on? You can ask that question. You can also be very honest about whether it's okay with you to be teased, because oftentimes what you're going to get in response to that is you're going to get, well, she can't take a joke. Oh, well, she doesn't have a sense of humor. Well, that's not true. I know for myself, I have a great sense of humor, but I need to feel safe and comfortable with someone to know, are they teasing me and for what reason? As you're getting to know someone, that can be pretty complicated, but you can, because you kind of want to fit in with other people and go, hey, it's okay if you tease me, I'll tease you back. But if that doesn't work for you, it's more about gathering information, letting somebody know how you feel. Let them know and say, hey, I'm just curious, is that what you meant? And then gathering information over time. That's very different from how somebody teases. If somebody's teasing and they're a friend of yours and let's say you're sensitive and that friend knows you're sensitive about weight. Okay, if you walk in and they look at you and go, well, what you eating today? It looks like you're eating a bit much. That's not an okay thing to do, because that teasing is designed to put that person down usually. And with everybody, it's going to be different. So I really, really, really encourage you to, much like that article says, first of all, perception check it, find out where it's coming from. Then decide too, is it something that you just let go and gather some information? But I always encourage people just to communicate. Let people know, because if somebody really, really cares about you, it's okay to laugh at yourself, it's okay to tease, but it also goes into areas of self-deprecating humor. Okay, most people are more comfortable if the person, and I'm guilty of this too, puts themselves down in front of you, you feel more relaxed. Well, you got to ask yourself, why is that? And so that's another aspect of it to be looked at, is to say, okay, well, if I need to put myself down in front of somebody so that they feel better about being around me, that's not cool either. That's not being yourself. But to have a sense of humor about yourself is okay. Can you guys tell already what a fine line all of this stuff is? There is such a fine line between that and between bullying, because sometimes it's used to manipulate people. And I think one of the movies was When Harry Met Sally, and she orders so strangely in a restaurant because she's very particular about what she likes. Well, her eventual partner, Billy Crystal, says, originally, can put her down for it, but what he ended up doing was saying to somebody, she orders stuff as if the chef didn't even know how good it could be. Now that's teasing, but it's teasing in a positive light versus saying, oh my God, we're going to sit here for 2 hours while you sit here and order. It's one of those things as to, why is somebody doing that? Are they doing that because that's just the way they are and they're rude to people? Are they doing it because they may have allergies? Why are they doing that? And once you know somebody better, you can really make that judgment better as to, why somebody is doing something. But in the meantime, once again, just find out, check it out. And it's okay to have a sense of humor about yourself. It's okay sometimes to kind of do a little dig at yourself, but be careful if you're doing that just to make somebody else feel better about themselves, or whether you're doing it just because you're poking fun at yourself, because we have positive traits, negative traits, and it's always awesome to learn about yourself. But really ask yourself, if you're teasing somebody and you're the one who's doing it, are you doing that out of kindness? Are you doing that to protect? Are you doing that because you kind of like that person? Or are you doing it because you feel threatened by that person? You want to bring them down a peg, or you're afraid of getting close to somebody, so you need to tease them to keep them at a distance. These are all important things. And once again, I encourage you guys to read that article. If you have any questions about this, decide for yourself in your life what teasing means to you, both giving and receiving of it. Communicate that. And then if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to leave comments in the comments section. Thanks again for listening, and have a wonderful day.